We're sushi makers. The least amount of ingredients at the highest quality. That's what we should think of this.
I've never felt this before. I feel out of control.
Trap introduces the Butcher, a new indelible serial killer who fits right into our ongoing fascination with murder's most foul. Where do you fall on that spectrum from avoiding morbid thoughts to falling asleep with forensic files on?
There was a period of my life when I was much darker, and I feel like that has gone the way of the dodo since having kids. I don't want to bring that stuff home with me. But trying to figure out how to play this character, I did a lot of research that delved into some super, super dark places. And then I tried to leave that at work when I came home at the end of the day.
Myself, like everyone else, is fascinated by these individuals that live amongst us. It's kind of interesting. There's probably 2 real-life monsters that interest us. One are dinosaurs, and one are serial killers. They're supernatural almost in their kind of myth. I'm very fascinated by what does it mean to be a human being? Does empathy, is that absolutely part of what's meant to be a human being? Look, they say that 4% of the population of the United States has no empathy, that would that would qualify as sociopath. That doesn't mean that they're hurting us physically, but they're just pretending to have empathy. And so they can become traders or lawyers or whatever it is, and they can be very good at it. Politicians, the president, it's a really scary and interesting thing. In fact, upon my research, evolutionarily, those people were advantageous to a population because in war or going to do stuff, they're very helpful.
I read a few books that you wouldn't have thought would be about sociopathy, but clearly were, like books of heroism and war and things like that. We tend to look at people that are archetypal heroes and think like, wow, they sacrifice anything to get their goals met. Well, that's not really good. You don't want to be around somebody who has no empathy and will sacrifice you. It's sort of an inconsistent thing that we have in our culture, that we tend to celebrate people who are driven to achieve at all costs.
Yeah, and it's such a fascinating twist to think of, reading these books about heroism. How did you, think to look there for visions of psychopathy?
Experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
I've met a lot of people over the years that they just don't look you in the eye.
Yeah.
There's no feeling toward you, you know? I feel like the opposite. I feel like I'm an open book. Knight says that every thought that I have kind of registers in my face. And I get very weirded out about like being read by other people, you know what I mean? Like, and so when I come across someone like that, I get really bad vibe. And I have run into quite a few people over the years that I think could fall on that psychopathy scale.
Interesting.
And some of them are incredibly well celebrated.
This dude is next level insane.
I've been loving all of the Trap fun facts you've been posting on your Instagram.
Yeah, I got to put one more today. You just reminded me.
Oh.
I have one more in my bag.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw in those fun facts that on your first meeting with Josh, the two of you discussed Oppenheimer. Were you trying to pump him for any information about how Christopher Nolan does things?
Hell yeah. I wanted to hear everything that went on the Oppenheimer set, and so Chris and I, we've made movies for our whole lives, and I think Chris and I are the same age, and he's been so sweet to me, and I'm so proud of everything he's achieved in cinema. Chris and I make very different types of movies, Mine are contained and his are so expansive and amazing, but we share a lot of ideologies about cinema, shooting on film, and all of that stuff.
They're both very detail-oriented filmmakers. Chris is maybe a little bit more off the cuff in his approach to the camera, because Knight has storyboarded literally every shot before we get there. The biggest similarity that I see between Knight and Chris is they're open to collaboration. They're so sure of their own creation that they're not worried that someone else's opinion is going to change the nature of their film. And so great directors, kind of contrary, I think, to the notion that we have in sort of public consciousness about directors, are not dictatorial. They're much more collaborative. And Knight and Chris both have that. They hire the right people, they want you to explore, they want it to be a collaborative event, and they want to take advantage of your great ideas,